We're excited about taking this next step in team development and playing in the preseason game. Few necessary business things that come along with that. I'm not going to officially declare anyone out. I like to leave the door open, particularly for those that are nursing minor injuries. But it's reasonable to say that these group of guys probably won't participate in the game due to their injury or generally due to lack of work in recent days associated with their injury. Marcus Whedon, Feeney, Burns, obviously Golson coming out of surgery, and Severin coming out of surgery. Roy Philon had an ankle injury sustained yesterday. He's a probable non-participant in this game. Some other guys that can be generally assumed that won't participate, Ben, A.B., Pouncey, Le'Veon Bell, D'Angelo Williams. I'm going to put together a schedule of participation for those guys, but that schedule probably won't be in this first preseason game. We're going to play it by ear with those guys that I mentioned and deal with their overall readiness toward the regular season on a week-to-week basis, but won't be participating this week. In terms of the rotations, we won't have any hard and fast rotations in terms of the guys. We want to see the guys play. Some we want to see more than others. Some we want to evaluate in ways that may dictate reps, general conditioning and so forth. We might challenge some people. There really won't be any prescribed rhythm to it. Just rest assured that we're looking for growth and development in all areas. These are some expectations, some things that we're looking for in the game. I want to see collectively that we're developing into a tough team to beat. And by that I mean that we play fundamentally sound and we keep penalties to a minimum, that we take care of the football. Those that handle the football, ball security is paramount. If you're going to be a tough team to beat, you got to do a great job in that area. Thus far in camp, I think we've done a good job in that area, but I want to be able to see us carry that over into some stadium play. And lastly, we got to play hard. I've been impressed with our conditioning, and secondly, our willingness to play hard to this point in the journey, but we got to be able to take that into a stadium environment. And I think those are the three things the first time out that we're really looking for. We're going to relay that to the group in a variety of ways in this last 48 hours or so as we push toward game prep. But as I sit here in front of you today, we're not in game prep mode. We're simply getting ready for this afternoon's practice. We're excited about that. It happens to be against the Detroit Lions, so there's going to be some unintended preparation for the game with that in mind, and that's one of the reasons why these practices are important to us. But really we're focused on what it is we're doing and to the quality in which we're doing it, and we're excited about taking that continual evaluation into a stadium, particularly because it's in Pittsburgh and it's in front of our fans. We're always excited about that. I'll be happy to address any questions you might have.
Like, if you're doing a good job of taking care of the football, or you're not doing a good job of taking it away, is that one of the?
It's six or half a dozen. And it depends on what side of the bed I wake up on, whether I feel good or bad about it.
How do you determine Ben's rest schedule at camp?
It's prescribed by us. I'm not going to disclose it to you guys, but it's not something that we do in a reactionary fashion. We've done it for several years in terms of sitting down and coming in with a prescribed schedule so that we can keep him moving in a upward trajectory.
Mike, I know conditioning, of course, is a big part. So many guys have come in, with weight loss, with talk about conditioning, being able to stay in the field. Was that any more point of emphasis this year?
Not any more than it has been. It's just a very necessary part of the process, and most importantly, it's probably the first step to individual and collective readiness. These guys don't have a lot of control over a lot of elements of this process, what we ask them to do and division of labor and things of that nature, but they got all the control over their overall readiness and what condition they report in, and guys are taking ownership of that.
Darius Green still not being available, hasn't practiced. When it comes to James and his availability for the first game, do you have to monitor that because he's one of the few tight ends that you have available, or does he just get a ton of snaps because somebody has to play the position?
No, he needs these opportunities to grow and develop himself. And so I'm not looking anywhere beyond that element of the discussion when it talks about his reps. He's a young guy that's working to improve. He needs the reps. He needs an opportunity to do that, and I don't think we should put any other variables in that equation. I know I'm not.
Mike, is he getting close to getting better?
Who's that? He's still on pup.
You got a lot of young running backs. Sometimes they do some exciting things out there. But how important is it, their blocking game in terms of whether they get to stick around?
You know, different guys have different attributes that they build the rest of their game around. And most running backs are here because they're good natural runners. And oftentimes, growth and development in the blocking game is something that's required for a lot of the young guys. Attitude and demeanor being one of the chief elements of it. And we've got some guys that are really growing in that area and have room for growth in that area, but I'm not displeased with anything that I've seen from an attitude and demeanor standpoint. Stingley, for example, has got a ways to go in terms of his technical blocking, but it's not because of want to. So as long as the attitude and demeanor is there, we'll continue to work with these young guys and help them grow in that very necessary area of the position.
Is that typical of the position when to see guys improve or maintain a certain attitude? Or is that just across the board?
That's just football.
Coach, some of your defensive players yesterday talked about the challenge of an elite arm and facing Stafford yesterday in practice and the value of that. From an offensive line perspective, when you guys got to see Ziggy Ansah even in a controlled environment, what does that provide?
You know, I didn't ask them specifically, but that's why you work against different people. Different groups present different challenges. We're a 3-4 team, they're a 4-3 team. Those teams have different attributes and they're built differently. The 4-3 in is a different animal than the 3-4 outside linebacker. So that's one of the reasons why you pursue opportunities like this, so guys can get exposure to different challenges. But I haven't asked any of those guys directly their response to the opportunity.
Mike, do you guys have any plans to use Burns in the slot position when he gets back?
Not at this juncture. We worked a number of people there. You know, you got to be careful sometimes the number of people you work in that position, because you can water down the reps to a point where they're not sufficient for anyone. And so we're being conscious about the number of people that we're asking to work in there. It's not that he's incapable, and it's not that he may not one day, some point down the line, be asked to do it. I'm just trying to manage the number of people that we're working at the position so that those that we're working are getting a substantial amount of work.
Like you and Jim Caldwell spent a year together on staff in Tampa, and he said that familiarity was one reason why he was comfortable doing these practices. Can you just share some recollections of him maybe from that time and how your relationship has grown?
You know, Steady Eddie. Jim Caldwell is Steady Eddie. I tend to be more up and down emotionally, and I appreciated that about him. And I was a very young guy when we worked together, and obviously had known of Coach Caldwell. He had been a long-time college head football coach at Wake Forest at that time, so really enjoyed learning a lot from him. I know that he and his family were helpful to my wife and I. We were very new parents at the time, and his wife did a great job of schooling my wife on parenting, man, and we appreciated it.
How about him with you?
Same thing. Same thing.
How's that relationship grown?
In a very natural way, man. We've been friends now for 15 years, and you know, I appreciate it, and it's always been a relationship that's valued by me.
What's available to you in this setting that when you start getting to games and getting back to Pittsburgh, that part of preparing that isn't there in Pittsburgh this year?
You know, I don't know that there's anything formally that's unavailable once we leave this setting, but there are some informal moments that make training camp valuable, and that's why you come to settings such as this. It's those informal moments when you're sitting outside at 10:30 at night and the day is done and guys are sitting on the stoop talking about ball or talking about life issues, helping one another. That doesn't happen as much when you leave the training camp setting, obviously, because when the day's work is done, guys go their separate ways. So there's some intrinsic value to being here, some things that you can't measure. And those are the things that I think about when I think about training camp, and those are the things that make me really excited about bringing a team to an environment like this.
3 weeks enough?
Man, I personally, I could work out of Latrobe all year, but I don't know that anybody else would join me in that.
on, man.
Leaving the
Including any of you.
leaving the light on for Hawkins after getting that injury yesterday, and how was he tracked before getting hurt yesterday?
He's done some nice things. I don't know the status of his availability or the extent of that injury relative to this game's opportunity, but he's been a positive energy bringer and hard-working young guy.
Do you have an update yet on Le'Veon's appeal?
I do not.
You mentioned mid-August. Are you still expecting roughly that?
Man, what's the date?
Yeah.
Get back at me in about 6-7 days. It'll be toward the middle of August. Maybe I'll have something for you.
Is it just a coincidence the guys you say that the veterans aren't going to play are all offensive players, and guys like you had mentioned Timmons or Harrison or Gay? Like, is that just a coincidence, or why is Harrison okay to play, I guess?
Because it's just the whims and wishes of the coach, I guess.
Mike, did you see Chicolo at his pro day?
I did.
Did you specifically watch him? But what is it about defensive tackle? You said he was a forte. That when you look at him, you think he can project to the outside. What was it?
He had fluidity in his movement and range in his movement that wasn't typical of a D lineman. He looked like an outside linebacker trapped in a D lineman's body. When you did your research on him, you realized he was a high school defensive end and a very good one of the best in the nation. And those guys usually go one or two ways. They go to outside linebacker or they become 4-3 ends, and he probably simply did was asked of him in terms of the way that they were structured down there. But just in general, in watching his movement, I thought he had the type of range in his movement and the fluidity in his movement that was characteristic of the position that he's playing for us.
See too many D tackles get transformed out that way, do you?
He's a unique guy. He's uniquely conditioned. He's doing a good job.
What do you see from Landry in terms of his confidence from last year at this time?
You know, I'm not looking for anything. I'm just looking for performance. I think he's doing nice things. Landry's not new to us. He is who he is. I like to think he's beyond that, he looks really confident stage. I know that I am.
This is a Lions question, but does Marvin Jones look any different outside of the uniform playing for the Lions than he did in Cincinnati all those years?
I didn't look at him. I was looking at mine. I had mine on two different fields. I didn't have a lot of time to look at theirs.
Mike, how much will it help, ultimately help the development of Artie Burns with, playing against a guy like Antonio Brown, having him as a training partner?
I think all of us benefit from the presence of guys like Antonio. They're standard setters, not only defenders but offensive players. You're seeing young offensive running backs and receivers finish in an Antonio Brown type of way, for instance. I think the presence of unique guys like him with a unique approach to training is beneficial to everybody around him.
Anything final for Coach? Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.